Final one, 11 of 11. I believe we are ready. George, we ready? Stu, Nick, ready? I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, already.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Trevor Williams on. Trevor, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain, pal. Can't complain. Let's start. Let's kick start. I mean, reading your manifesto and let's be fair, there's not many people around the club who don't know who you are. One of those sort of founding fathers of the club, if you like. I think my first question has to be, when you and the other three sort of met 18 years ago, are you how proud are you and how sort of pleased are you where you are now? Like, what, sort of 18 years on, it's become something crazy. Did you ever expect this?
No. I don't. I rarely talk about this. I'm not quite one for putting myself in the publicity and stuff like that, as anyone who knows me or knows. I'm immensely proud of what we've achieved. To go back to a manifesto bit, we should all be proud of what we've achieved, because what we've achieved is quite frankly nuts. It really is, and it's not. It started before AFC Wimbledon. The forming of the trust, the anti-Dublin process at Selhurst, that all put us in a place where we knew we could make a difference. And ultimately, we lost that competition. We lost the Milton Keynes battle. We lost it. So consequently, then doing something very positive and doing something. I was fed up with protesting. I would go football to watch football and enjoy football. And my activism started with Dublin and stuff like that. And that's where it started. And I think that's where that with Wisa before that as well. So we've got a history of fighting for the club. And so the formation of AFC Wimbledon was the next natural step in that. And like always, you talk about the four people who started it, and I'm immensely proud of that. Always say we were dead in the water within 48 hours if everybody didn't get on board. Whenever we needed anything, somebody come along and offered. When we needed someone to do computers, Peter Bowles came in to do it. When we needed leafleting, someone else did it. And that keeps being repeated through the history of the club as well. When we need the fans to do something, then they step up amazingly.
You talk in your manifesto about having obviously had involvement within AFC Wimbledon before. You have an insight into what it's like and the difficulties the club face. What are those difficulties?
We're just a small club. We're a small club, so if you look at it, we've probably, without going into the figures of it, if there's any League One club that runs on smaller staff than us in terms of office administration, in terms of responsibilities, people have spoke about how everyone in the whole world reports to Joe, and we need to get away from that, and that's been discussed, and that's so obviously true, but we need to do it. So we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources in any area. We don't have the resources that other clubs have got on the pitch. We don't have the resources that other clubs have got off the pitch. We don't have the resources. You look at clubs that come to visit us. We're in the same league as people like Sunderland and Ipswich and stuff like that. Never mind managers and players, where they can spend so much more money on that. They spend so much more money on the way they travel. They spend so much more money on their sports science. They spend so much more money on that sort of stuff. Money we just don't have. And we got people who work their absolute bits off there. Chris, our sports scientist, all the interns, the people we have, the people who we come in and try and help. And we're trying to improve all the time. The football management side always try and drive that forward. And I know the club try and drive it forward as well. It's all important stuff, and it's all not necessarily well-known stuff. But we are just a small club punching above its weight, and we are under-resourced in certain areas.
You also talk about having a good understanding of football, the reality of how things work, as you sort of alluded to in your point just now. How important is it to have someone with a football background, if you like, on the Don's Trust board?
I don't want to big myself up overly in much as I've got a football background. I'm not a tactical genius. I'm not a manager. I'm none of them things at all. I'm someone who's been around football. I started I'm a non-league geek thing when I started at that meeting, and I said at that first meeting, or the 30th of May meeting, I said, it's just a little bit of understanding goes a long way. We had loads of people packed into that room that day, and all I could say with authority that if nobody else apart from the people at that meeting on May the 30th in 2002 come to a non-league club, we'd be still a decent sized non-league club. So, and it's just having a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of background. And like I say, I go all over the country, and I still talk to all our old managers and that. So, yeah, I think a nice background in football is a good thing because that's what we are. We're a football club. We're a football club. So I think I've got a bit of knowledge of that. I think, like I say, I understand the background. I understand how different we are to other clubs in the way we do things. So I think that'd be a positive thing on the Dons Trust board.
Brilliant stuff. With the club now at Plough Lane, do you think that it's time for maybe a new approach on the board? Do you think it's time for a freshen up? Is it time to maybe change sort of direction, the way things are done?
I think you should always be fresh. I think if you look at it, you go, what I'm so struck with, I'm going last. I've got to follow all them people who've been utterly brilliant over the course of the day. So I'm not sure that's a great thing, but what it does for me, it shows that I'm so pleased that we've got this number of good candidates. And let's face it, listen to most of the people who spoke today. I'd have no fears about them being on the board. I don't necessarily agree with them on everything, but I'd have no fears about them being on the board. They stand for the same things I do as far as fan ownership and stuff like that, stuff that I think is utterly vital. So I think we do need to, I think the stuff talking about roles of responsibility, yes, I think the biggest thing we need to do is to have that communication and get led by the fans, and we need to make every effort to make sure that happens. So I see as the Dons Trust board should provide oversight, and all the stuff Charlie and Niall spoke about is brilliant in terms of role responsibility. Ultimately, I do believe that we need to be talking to the fans and let the fans set direction. Then the Dons Trust board give direction to the club, and then we go from there. The Dons Trust board need to provide oversight, obviously, to make sure that we're good employers, to make sure that we're keeping up the fundamental values of the trust, to keep all them things going. But ultimately, we need to go and talk to the fans, because it's us. They're the ones who tell us how we should be, what we should be doing, what the club should look like, where we should be going, what should be important.
And in terms of fan ownership, you talk quite sort of vociferously about in your manifesto about fan ownership. You said the day we lose control of the club, we risk everything we have achieved since 2002. Whilst you're not against outside investment, what are your parameters for outside investment and holding on to the club and making sure it is fan owned?
There's as Charlie said, there's so many things you can do. Ultimately, I think the 75% question, we need to retain control of the voting shares. Nick come in and given us a load of money and stuff like that. That's brilliant. And ultimately, he's not going to be able to fundamentally damage the club if we don't agree with what he wants. You could ask the question if when these people invest, what do they want in return? Granted, they won't be able to move, but how much influence do they want and stuff like that. So absolutely, as long as we retain voting rights, then I'm utterly open to investment. And it just goes to show that we are a good story. All the stuff that everyone spoke about, how we're a unique story. Nick invested money knowing that he's not going to be able to possibly not be able to do a huge amount from a legal point of view. There's a reason he invested, though, because he obviously likes a story. He wants to help a local community club. So if there's more people out there, absolutely be lovely, willing to talk to them, but as long as they know that fan ownership isn't on the table.
As someone who was involved, you've been involved with the club since sort of day dot. I mean, how does the club now go to the next level, both on the pitch, off the pitch, and sort of in the local community as it's back in Merton?
I think you look at it, and everyone talks about Don's Local Action Group and what they've done, been phenomenal. Shouldn't forget about our foundation as well. The FC Women Foundation is doing amazing work, getting people to participate in sports and stuff like that. And it feels like, as the 11th person, it feels like going over grounds. But can you imagine the Don's Foundation being able to bring kids to a classroom overlooking that stadium, and then overlooking that stadium and talking about whether it's healthy eating, whether it's any other number of things. So we can have a massive impact on that, and we need to back the foundation and the Don Local Action Group and the evolution of that. Football's exciting, football's fun, and if you're bringing a school class, we've got the third floor at the ground, which it might be usable space for something like that. There's so much we can do, and we can generally put ourselves at the heart of the community and be a hub and be a beacon for local schools to go, yeah, we're going to have a lesson here, we're going to cover this, and the foundation can do presentations. Just use the asset which we've got in the ground.
You talk about how you feel the Dons Trust shouldn't micromanage the football club. How do you think you could ensure that, you know, the people at the club, the good people at the club, you know, are measured and that their contribution is evaluated and taken into consideration?
I think that's it. I mean, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been employed by the club. I don't know what the situation is at the minute regarding performance appraisals and stuff like that. That things like that aren't a stick to beat people with. They're a stick to help people learn and to get better staff. So I think it feels like almost since day one, the club's always been a bit crisis management, partly due to our own success, as in the success of getting back in the league, the success of being bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just a case of supporting. It's just a case of supporting the club. But also acting as oversight. I want to make sure we're good employers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, as a part of the Dons Trust Board, we have a responsibility to the members. We have a responsibility to the members to make sure that they're setting direction and the club is going in directions the members are happy with. Also, it's also oversight from the other way as well, as go to say, yeah, we need to be good employers. We need to make sure everybody's got a chance to grow in their roles. We need to make sure that basically that we're good employers and all that stuff, and make sure people have achievable targets and make sure people are measured against targets and stuff like that. I don't know enough about corporate structures and stuff like that to say we should do this with a board. The idea of a working board running everything and then overseen by the trust seems a real simple way for me to do it from that point of view. But yeah, the trusts do need oversight over everything, and we need to make sure that the football club are responsible employers and responsible in everything they do.
I think I've got time for one more question. It's going to be a very vague one. But, you know, in the section where you talk about what you'll bring, you said beyond wanting the best for the trust in the club. I come into this with an open mind. What is an open mind? What
I mean is there's some red lines that I think. I said in my manifesto, if you don't believe in fan ownership and you don't believe in community involvement, I'm probably not the person for you. And that's true. But from that, I think sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it feels like people have gone in with an agenda to go, I want to change this, I want to change that. There's things we need to be better. There's things that need to be better at all levels of the club and the trust and stuff like that. That's already been spoken about. And the Dons Trust, the latest Dons Trust board, I think, is the most dynamic we've had for quite some time. And that's down to people like Luke and Hannah and Jane, and just not picking names out of the hat. But I think, yeah, but I'll come to it with an open mind going, it might be that we consult fans and it's not something I agree with. But what I do then need to know is that I'm not going, what I mean is an open mind. I just mean I'm going to be led by the fans. That's what I mean in terms of, it might be that fans say, yeah, we should be sponsored by the Sun. I won't necessarily agree with that. But if the fans have come to us and goes, yeah, we've got no problem with a Sun sponsorship, for argument's sake, then it's not my position to fight against that.
Finally, for me, what is your sort of vision, both on and off the pitch, in the next sort of, you know, let's say 2 years, but also the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
I think League One is a fight for us. League One is a fight for us. I think the ground should be transformative in terms of how many people can get in. The ground should be transformative in given times, and when the financial madness settles down of COVID, it should see us increase revenue. It should make us more stable on the pitch, and if we can be established as a League One club is an amazing thing in itself. So beyond, let's be a League One club. Let's be engaged. Let's make sure that people can afford to get into us. By all means, let's have all the corporate, let's have all that, but bottom line, let's make it affordable for everyone to come and see us. Let's put ourselves at the heart of our community. Let's use the asset, which is the ground, in order to just invite people in and draw people into us.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Trevor. Let's bring, who are we bringing in for the questions? George? It is George.
Yeah.
Hi, George.
Hello. Few questions coming in live, Trev. First question, a couple of people have asked, why are you standing now rather than previous years?
People keep telling me I should stand because I talk endlessly about the club and what I believe, and then they keep saying I should stand. So I think it felt like it's time to stand. I think them voices have basically got in my head, and I do think honestly I think I can make a difference. I think I offer something slightly different. So I think, yeah, I've been thinking, I nearly did it last time. I should have done it last time. So this year, I think, yeah, I feel like I can offer something, and people keep telling me that I should be on the board because I've got some different ideas.
What would be your main priority to achieve during your time on the board? One priority.
The work that the current board have done with regards to consultation and that sort of thing, I think that's I think that's the thing. That's the starting point for it. We need to consult more. We need to have our direction. We need to ask our fans for direction. We need to ask our fans what we should be, what we should look like, what we should do. So that would be my number one priority.
Obviously, this is one we've asked a couple of times today, but with Greg Clark's recent comments, what do you think the Dons Trust is doing enough in terms of diversity, and what more do you think it could do?
This was asked on the Pro Board as well. Sean asked it. I think we can always do more. I think as people have spoken about, Jane and Mandy's work in various different areas, just support them. And if we support them, and let's make it everyone should feel comfortable coming to the club. You shouldn't hear racist, homophobic language at the club. I think you're as likely to hear homophobic language as you are racist language at the moment. Yeah. So yeah, of course we can always do better, and we should talk to the people who know more about this than us.
Yeah. Another question, talking about restricted actions this time. We've talked about it a few times today. The threshold is 75%. Do you think that's right?
It seems to have protected us so far. As people have alluded to, back in 2 ticks, it was enough work that it wasn't difficult for the club to achieve the back in 2 ticks, but it did take work. So that shows to me that the limit's at a realistic level. So again, I don't still feel the need to change it at the minute. I think Charlie's point was really interesting about different models and stuff like that, and that's not something I know anything about, so I'll certainly be looking at that now.
So Trevor, thank you for joining us. That's all we've got time for. Thank you.
Cheers.